Greetings, my friends, and welcome back. Mike Allen from Chicagoland, back from Texas, and here in the Chicagoland area once again, broadcasting from Elmhurst, Illinois, about 30 minutes west of the city, at the Elmhurst History Museum today. And I wanted to check out an exhibit. It's called Eat Your Heart Out. It's about the history of Chicago street foods, such as Chicago-style hot dogs, Italian beef with the giardiniera on top. I kind of wanted to check this exhibit out because that's always been a fascination of mine, learning about the different types of Chicago street food that is out there. And we're also going to check out, see what else this museum has to offer. So why don't we head inside and let's get started. So yeah, this building looks to be quite a relic here. Made of stone, and let's say if it's not 100 years old, it's probably pushing there. So when you first walk inside, they have the Eat Your Heart Out exhibit here with the Chicago-style hot dogs and all the trimmings, including the sport pepper right there on top. Definitely not surprised by this fact. If you divide the number of hot dogs eaten in this country every year by the total population, the average person is eating 70 hot dogs a year. Illinois residents are far above average, eating 317 hot dogs per every year. And the hot dog brand of everyone's choice, Vienna beef. And this is one of the things I love about Chicago, is the numerous hot dog stands, from just a stand like this to, like the sign said, a full-fledged restaurant. I love going and just checking out local places. I do like a Portillo's hot dog every now and then, but I don't mind, heading into the city and just checking out local joints. And as I mentioned about Portillo's, it started off as just a hot dog stand, humble hot dog stand itself. It's now expanding into areas outside the Chicagoland metropolitan region. Just about ready to open up a location in the Colony, Texas, which is just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. And they've got locations also opening up in Florida, Minnesota, Indiana, Arizona, California. So Portillo's is going national and bringing the Chicago street food culture to the rest of America. Here's a picture of the original doghouse where Portillo's got its start. Here's a early iteration version of the Portillo's with Dick Portillo manning the cash register back in his humble beginnings when he had to do it all. Now he sails around the world in his $1 million yacht. Can't blame him, he earned it. And yeah, if you go into a Portillo's now, usually it's themed after a certain era, like the Colorado mining theme. In the particular one in Addison, I've seen the 1920s Prohibition era, and I've also seen the 1950s diner style too. So this really showcases Dick Portillo's love of history, which is something him and I share in common. So I grew up eating giardiniera on my hot dogs and Italian beef sandwiches, and just never thought anything of it. I had no idea that this was pretty much a Chicago area staple. As you get older, you meet people from outside the region. They had no idea what giardiniera is. And it's basically, here's what it is. It's a bunch of vegetables with some olive oil mixed in, put into a jar. You can put it on Italian beef, put it on hot dogs. I've even seen it on pizza. My favorite brand is definitely Marconi giardiniera, and I usually like to get it nice and hot. Even Hall of Fame tight end and legendary Chicago Bears coach Mike Ditka has his own line of giardiniera. Why not? He's put his name on everything else. There's a little bit of history about Bona Beef, which is another regional chain here. Not as big as Portillo's, but still one that I do like to go to from time to time. I don't normally go there for their Italian beef. I go there mainly for their pizzas. I think their pizzas are really good. Looks like it began in nearby Berwyn in 1981. Here's some of the components of an Italian beef sandwich. You got the roll with the beef and giardiniera on top there. Here's a blown up picture of it. So in this one, it not only has the giardiniera on top, but the sweet bell peppers. I like to have both hot and sweet peppers on my Italian beef. Now with the expansion of Portillo's going national, the Italian beef is starting to be known in other areas of the country. For a while, this was really a Chicago delicacy and something that if you got outside the Midwest region, not many people knew about. Portillo's and their expansion are changing that. The sign tells the history of how the Chicago Italian beef got started. Italian immigrants in the early 1900s. This is an origin story of Anthony Ferrari, who sold sandwiches to working class folk from the back of his truck. It says it started around the time of World War I. Don't know for sure whether he was the inventor of this, but it helped foster in the founding of many Italian beef and sausage stands. Now, this can't be an exhibit about Chicago street food without deep dish pizza. But contrary to popular belief, if you go into a lot of the local taverns, get outside downtown and head to some of the local taverns in and around the small neighborhoods that surround the city, you'll find mostly you'll see a lot of the thin cut with the cracker crust pizza cut in squares. I tend to eat that more in those local places, whereas I'll go to a place like Lou Malnati's or Giordano's and get something like this, something deep dish, more traditional to the regional chains. But the small local places normally don't eat deep dish. It's mostly the thin crust. Now, it's said that Pizzeria Uno was the first to serve the Chicago-style deep dish pizza in 1943. And then they had a gentleman by the name of Lou Malnati who worked for them. That's him right there. He opened up his own pizza joint in 1971. And I've actually been to the original Lou Malnati's just north of here. And it's become kind of a regional chain. And it's definitely my favorite of the regional chain pizza joints. That's his son, Mark Malnati, standing next to him, who runs the business now. But yeah, it's definitely a treat for my wife and I. We get Lou Malnati's at least once every couple of weeks. Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of the town that the original Lou Malnati's is in. It's Lincolnwood, which is kind of near Skokie and Evanston, just north of the city. I thought this was really cool here. This is a picture of Lou Malnati serving a pizza to his father, Adolfo Papa Malnati, in front of Pizzeria Uno. Here they got a wall of local restaurants here in Elmhurst. Because I'm not from Elmhurst, I'm not really familiar with a lot of these places, but I have driven past Hamburger Heaven several times. They got this interactive screen here. It says touch of food. I'm gonna give Lou Malnati's a try. Malnati's Pizzeria is featured elsewhere in the exhibit, but in 1987, Malnati started Lou to Go, using newly opened overnight delivery services offered by FedEx. Let's check out Wrigley gum. Wrigley dates back to 1891. It was included as a premium in packages of baking soda, but soon the gum itself was the commodity. And how about we check out Hostess and Twinkies. Continental Baking Company baker in Schiller Park invented the filled golden sponge cake Twinkie in 1930. Swung back around to the Lou Malnati's exhibit one more time. I didn't know this. Their canned tomatoes were available to take home at one time. If I'd have known that, I would have stocked up. Here's a Lou Malnati's can of tomatoes along with a deep dish pizza pan. So I was kind of surprised they didn't have an exhibit on the Maxwell Street Polish sausage. It's also one of my favorite Chicago-style street foods, but it's a pretty cool exhibit. Got to see some things that I already knew and things that I didn't know. But let's head upstairs and we'll check out the rest of this museum. So upstairs is some history about Elmhurst. There's a panoramic view of what it looked like at one point in time. This is a pretty cool interactive feature. I've just been playing around with it off camera. It shows the aerial view of 1939 in Elmhurst, and you can drag it along today's map to see what everything looked like back in 1939. 16mm film reels from the nearby Yorktown Theater. Boy, this is a throwback right here. Solozzi Edelson Chevrolet in Elmhurst at York and Roosevelt Road, where you always save more money. They got the dollars there. Just to give everybody a little context, that was the old car commercial from back in the 80s and 90s. I remember it was always on TV growing up as a kid, and that was their catchphrase, where you always save more money. And I remember I had a wooden rocking horse similar to this when I was a kid. I believe it was a hand-me-down. This one says circa 1942. There's a bank teller window, circa 1894. So I didn't know this. Elmhurst had a semi-pro football team that competed for 38 seasons beginning in 1927. Don't get to see many leather helmets up close, so this is pretty cool. Maybe I need to add 10 more football museums. So York Community High School is the high school here in Elmhurst, and there's a football helmet from, looks to be about the 1960s, but the sign doesn't say. Here's some pennants for Immaculate Conception High School, Timothy Christian, and Elmhurst College, but now Elmhurst University, which is just steps away from this museum. So I didn't know this. Carl Sandburg, the famed poet, lived in Elmhurst with his family from about 1920 to 1930, and his family donated his typewriter to the museum after he passed. And that's it right there. It's quite the tall barbershop pole, circa 1910, according to the sign. And a relic from the past, wooden mailbox that you'd find at a post office. Talking to a staff member inside, this house was built in 1892 and it was owned by the Gloss family. And when the wife died in the 30s, she donated the building to the city of Elmhurst, and it housed the police station for a while. It housed the mayor's office, government offices, and then obviously eventually became the Elmhurst History Museum. So that was pretty cool learning about the history of that building there. The gentleman also told me that there's a mausoleum here across the street that I guess was part of the Gloss family's property, so I'm gonna go check it out. So this is Gloss Memorial Park, and it looks like it's gonna be undergoing some renovation and expansion work, but this here is the mausoleum. Let's see if I can get a closer look. So one of the nice things about being home is no Texas heat. It's in the high 70s, low 80s today, and not anywhere near the triple digits I experienced down in the Lone Star State. One thing about Elmhurst is there's always trains coming through here. So thank you again for joining me today at the Elmhurst History Museum. Got to check out the Chicago street food exhibit, as well as learn a little bit about the history of the town itself, dating back to its inception up until today. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Check down in the link in the descriptions below to see other ways that you could help me help grow this channel, keep this train moving just like the one I just showed you here. So anyway, this is Mike Allen from Chicagoland, signing off from Elmhurst, Illinois. I'll be back next Friday with another video. Till that time, don't you go changing.